Welcome to a special campaign edition of Talk of the Town that features the first general election debate between Carolyn Dykema and the Democratic candidate and Dan Haley, the Republican candidate, who are seeking election to serve as your next state representative. After serving in the House for the last 8 years, Representative Paul Lascoco has decided not to run for re-election this fall. In the next hour, we will meet and hear from the two finalists for the House seat for the 8th Middlesex District. Hi, my name is Sam Tyler, for this debate I will be the moderator. With me is Jim Kleinkoff, South Regional Editor of the Metro West Daily News, who has been following the race and actually was with us at the primary debate. Both candidates are Holliston residents, and the winner on November 4th will represent the 8th Middlesex District, which covers the two communities of Holliston and Hopkinton, and one or two precincts in Medway, Southborough, and Westborough. The format for this debate is that each candidate will present a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement. Both candidates will answer the same question posed by Jim or myself, and each will have 2 minutes to respond, and they will alternate who answers first. The candidates will have the opportunity for rebuttals, and the panel members will ask follow-up questions if warranted. The candidates will also ask each other a question during this hour. Now, please remember that the opinions expressed here are not those of this show or of HCAT TV. Now let's meet the two candidates. We will start with each candidate having 2 minutes for an opening statement. Based on a flip of the coin before the show, we will begin with Carolyn Dykema. Carolyn?
Good evening, Sam. My name is Carolyn Dykema, and I am the Democratic candidate for state representative here in the 8th Middlesex District. I started this campaign almost a year ago now, and when I told people initially that I was running for office, and I explained that I was running because I felt like we really needed to address some of the challenges that we faced in our district, including adequate funding for education, strengthening our economy and addressing some of the environmental concerns and addressing growth concerns here in our district. I was interested to see that the initial reaction was almost invariably, you shouldn't do that. Don't waste your time. You can't get anything done on Beacon Hill. It's impossible to change the way things are done up there. And frankly, that made me even more determined to run for office because I knew it wasn't true. And I knew from my past experience in local town politics here in Holliston and my past 5 years on the planning board that it was possible to get things done and that government can make good things happen in our communities. And I'll give you some examples. When we first proposed to do an affordable housing bylaw here in town, people universally said, oh, you'll never get it done. That can't happen. It did, and it passed by a wide margin. The same went with stormwater bylaws that we passed, as well as an open space development residential bylaw. So I want to take the lessons that I learned in getting things accomplished here in Holliston and use them to benefit our district up at the State House. And the 3 lessons that I will take with me if you send me to the State House are, number 1, it takes a tremendous amount of time to get things done in government. I'm aware of that. I've worked in the public sector, and I know it's true. That's why I believe it's important to have a full-time representative advocating for our interests up at the State House. I also know it's important to communicate, which is why I want to bring back office hours to our district, which we haven't had it for a number of years now. And it's important to be a good listener, which is why I think it's important to be out into the communities. Again, as a full-time representative, I will make it a priority to listen and to be out in our communities and hearing what the voters in this district think and how they want to be represented at the State House. So again, I think we've got a lot of challenges to face in the coming years. I want to make this job a full-time job, and I will work hard to represent the interests of this district. I would appreciate your vote on November 4th. My name is Carolyn Dykema. Thank you.
Dan?
Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Jim, for hosting and moderating this debate. I was saying just a moment ago, the last time I was sitting at a desk in this room was when I was anchoring Holliston High School News Flash in 1991. Lots changed here, but it feels oddly similar. My name is Dan Haley. I am running to represent the 8th Middlesex District in the House of Representatives to succeed my friend Paul Lascoco, who is retiring after 8 years and has endorsed my candidacy. Paul and I worked together at the State House on a number of matters when I worked for Governor Romney as his deputy legal counsel. I too know how to get things done at the State House. In fact, I've gotten some quite significant things done at the State House. I wrote and shepherded Melanie's Law through the legislature. Melanie's Law, as many people know, was the 2005 drunk driving legislation, which fundamentally reformed our drunk driving laws in Massachusetts, leading to a very significant drop in drunk driving, repeat offender drunk driving related deaths on our highways. I also, in 2005, was part of the group that fought back a legislative attempt to implement a retroactive capital gains tax increase, which would have gone back to 2002 and said to people, you paid your taxes as you were supposed to, you followed the law, but we're going to raise your taxes retroactively. We fought that back. Right now, the state is facing a financial crisis, and the nation's facing a financial crisis. But we should be careful not to let the former obscure the causes of the latter. We're in a hole right now that we dug for ourselves. Our legislature dug for itself. In January of this year, long before the current turmoil on the national scene, Governor Patrick's legislative director said to the media, if the legislature does not address its spending issues, we're going to be looking at somewhere north of $1 billion deficit this year. The legislature went behind closed doors, and instead of addressing that deficit, they added over $220 million in additional spending. And we are now, in fact, facing a deficit of over $1 billion. It's because we don't have enough voices standing up for fiscal responsibility on Beacon Hill. I will be that voice, and I ask for your vote on November 4th.
You know, Jim, I was thinking that this debate finds the fiscal picture of Massachusetts, it's sort of similar to what Dan is saying, much different. In the sense we're in a different place than the campaign started many months ago. As a result of the dramatic downturn in the national economy, the state's own fiscal problems. I mean, even now, the state is facing what is some have termed a $1.5 billion budget problem. That's requiring the governor to make budget cuts this month, and that certainly will affect local aid for municipalities next year. I think the changing financial landscape will certainly influence what is doable and what is not doable in addressing issues that we raised in this debate. Now we're going to start with our first set of questions, and we'll start with Jim Kleinkoff, who will pose the first question to Dan Haley.
All right. Again, I'm happy to be here again. First question we'd like to ask is about question 1, which is on the November 4th ballot. It would phase out state income tax over 2 years, starting in January 2009, and reduce state revenues by an estimated $12.6 billion, or nearly 40% of the state budget. Estimates indicate that Holliston's and Hopkinton's state aid could be cut by over 65% each. What is your position on question 1, and why?
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that question. And let's be clear. Let's not kid ourselves here. Question 1 is a very important issue on the ballot, and people have very strong feelings about it. But let's not kid ourselves that Holliston and Hopkinton are going to see the cuts that you were just discussing. The last time the people voiced an opinion on the income tax in a ballot initiative, we saw what the legislature does with the people's voice on taxes. The people voted in 2000 by a large majority to roll back taxes gradually to 5.0%. The legislature took that, and let's be clear on what a ballot initiative does. It's in our Constitution. It makes law. It allows the people to make law. And what our legislature did was stuck its thumb in the eye of the voters and said, we're just going to come into session and make another law saying that the law that you just made is no longer the law. And so people are fed up, and they look at the situation that we have right now. They look at last year, we had higher revenues than ever before in the history of Massachusetts, and yet we spent $1 billion more than we took in, leading directly to the $1 billion some odd deficit that we have now. People are fed up.